Okay, welcome everybody to June 22nd legislative meeting. I will take a motion for the adoption of the agenda, please. Councilor Waugh, thank you. Is there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up is the adoptions of our last legislative meeting. Looking for a motion, thank you. Councilor Rudick. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. First up, Director Rowe, and we have, we just have a letter. We don't have a delegation, correct?
No, just a letter, sir.
From the 4Health Walking Group.
Yep. So this is a letter dated June 9th from Legacy for 4Health to yourself and council. Your worship and council, with COVID-19 restrictions being lifted and normal activities slowly resuming, the members of Legacy for Health thought the time would be right to reach out and express our appreciation to the town of Vegreville for granting us the opportunity to function as a walking club out of the Vegreville Centennial Library Gymnasium. Since 2006, our group has met to walk on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The library gymnasium has served us well, and it is our intent to continue this activity after COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. Over the years, Legacy for Health has provided many individuals with a safe place to walk, particularly in the winter. Individuals join our walking group for fitness, weight loss, social needs, medical reasons, etc., all of which contribute to wellness. Our membership is comprised mainly of seniors. However, all ages are encouraged to join. Legacy for Health would be pleased if you would once again give consideration to our use of the library gymnasium for walking as outlined above. We hope to continue our partnership with the town of Vegreville in this invaluable initiative for citizens of our community. Thank you for your interest and consideration. Please contact George Barclay, Legacy for Health President, for more information or further discussion as required. There's truly George Barclay. So I did speak to somebody for Legacy for Health about 3 weeks to a month ago, and I assured them that as soon as AHS is finished in the library gymnasium, that we would resume normal activities, same as pickleball. We'll be granting those users the same use of the gymnasium as before. So.
Okay, and does Alberta Health give us any indication when that may be?
July 31st.
July 31st. Okay. Okay, so this will come to us in our next council meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Next up is your wayfinding master plan. Oh, sorry. Did anybody else have any questions regarding Legacy for Health Walking Group? Yeah, well, I didn't see any red mics, so I didn't know what to do. Go ahead, Director.
So last Thursday, I made the wayfinding master plan presentation to town council and asked if for everyone to have a look through the proposal and if there was any questions for today. So I'm not going to go through the presentation as in great length at this point, but were there any questions that could immediately try to answer?
Hey, who wants to start? Okay, Councilor Waters will be first. You don't have to do nothing.
Just look through a few things here that stood out to me. One was
Oh, I guess I already did.
we're good. So yeah, some things that stood out to me. One of them was on page 11, addressing the events of the country fair and the Pisanka Festival.
Yes.
Trying to have them, I guess, emulate, I guess, what we are proposing for signs, with them wanting to stand out. So maybe that would be a conversation with those individual organizations. I'm sure that was thought.
And again, these signs are put up those specific groups. I'm not suggesting that we invest in changing them or they invest in changing them. But when the time comes that they do require updating, because these signs have been up for years, and they do routinely update them, like, every 10 years, so that when that time does come, that they have something sort of to follow, so that, again, it's all about creating that consistency with the signs. Wouldn't have to have our logo on it, but still keeping consistent with that Travel Alberta blue, the headers, things like that. So.
Another concern for me was the QR codes. Still being fairly new, not a lot of people have it. I know I've been having a heck of a time trying to get that app on my phone. So with the mapping, a bit of a concern for that. And also that would have to link to our website. So I guess that would work hand in hand, making sure we have a fully functioning, easy to use website once that comes about. And then another thing for me is symbols. A lot of these signs look great, they do. For example, the recycling one has a symbol on it, but then soccer or ball wouldn't have a symbol. And again, going to the people that don't speak or read English, that might be a difficult thing. And I understand from the presentation with the clutter, I get that, but it needs to be easy for everybody, just like accessible parks, we need signs that are, I guess, universal in a way.
So I guess to answer that question, when it comes to the signage for destination, so when people know they're at a destination, there's certainly room to put logos on it, on those specific signs. But when it comes to the directional ones, where you've got a list of 5-6 different places, and you've got arrows and distances, it's just very difficult to put a logo and what is that distinct. And I say I go off the logos of what Travel Alberta has in place, and those, there's a logo that's possible, and it's approved by Travel Alberta. That's what we use.
Okay. So I appreciate putting this together. It was a lot of work for sure. So those were just a few things that stood out for me. So.
Okay, so we've heard a couple of times now about these symbols. Now, we look what we already have. They are really tough to read, where they're all just symbols. I mean, when you're driving by and they're all on one sign, a directional sign, yeah, it's just too much. And then somebody would actually have to stop. What you're saying, what you're proposing is that when people are coming in for the directional signs, it's just written with an arrow and the distance away.
Yes.
And as the closer they get to the destination, that may carry a logo there. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if I can get 1 or 2 items. So let's say, for instance, the curling rink and the exhibition grounds, and of course the social center is there. Putting those on, and then because it's one arrow, and we know that when they come close to that corner, all 3 of these facilities are this way. There's no going this way. There's nothing straight. So we'll be able to put a curling rock on there. We can put the provincial for events. And of course, there's really nothing for social center. But again, we could use those logos on those signs, and then it's not becoming overly cluttered. But if you start to put signs, logos on for like airport, golf course, visitor information, all on those signs, they become huge and they become cluttered.
Okay. Did you have a question?
No, that was the point that I'd like, just want clarification, is that it was on the secondary side.
Yeah.
Sorry, further to that comment. So looking at, for example, on page 28, similar to my comments last time, I do appreciate that the signs are cleaner. I'm sorry, oh wait. It's the first page where the big folder is. So when you're looking at the design rationale, I appreciate that it's clean, it's consistent, and more unified, which is definitely something that is needed throughout the community. And I'm glad to see that we've gone from the conception a number of years ago to delivering more clear wayfinding for our citizens as well as visitors to our community. That said, I do have some concerns about, for example, the amount of space that's given to the town of Vegreville for signs that are within the community. So I know there's a series of examples here on the page here. So I just again, I'm concerned about the amount that's given to the town of Bakerville, because obviously, if you're in the town of Bakerville, that would be evident to anybody that's here. And I do disagree that there needs to be symbols, and even the fact that there are universally acceptable symbols, it would be no different than a symbol for WMIS or anything that's universally known. I think there can be a combination that's both using clear graphics. So even the font that's decided for printing out whatever is coming up, for sure there's not a symbol for the social center, but there certainly is for the cycling. And I think for the sake of consistency, I understand as you progressively move forward that maybe you might have a "you are here" identifying that, and any of us that have driven in other communities trying to find the arena, for example, that is a common issue, trying to guide people to their destination so they actually realize that they're there. All that said, I do feel like there needs to be a combination of both written as well as graphic font. So in this sense, I think a pictograph of some kind that's universally understood is necessary. So as we move forward, I'm not sure exactly which one it's going to be on, but I do feel even the examples that are given periodically throughout the presentation show that there is still a reliance on using the graphic picture. And I think that is something that we need to move forward in some combination. All that said, the fact that we're going to have a concise, consistent method for moving people in and out of the community is great. And I think working with community partners will be important too, just to make sure that when they put up their temporary signage, for example, that it also is consistent with what we're saying. I mean, I know that this is going to be a progress. Anything that we're doing is a progression already, so it's going to be incremental. And I look forward to seeing how we would work too with realtors, because even the sign that is currently existing on the very west end of town, the east one is gone, but the map that was there, that's kind of a combination that, for example, hotels use at their front desk. So that map has been printed a number of different times. So it's a tear-off sheet. So again, just making sure that we work with our partners so that they're consistent in that way too.
Okay, so to start on Councilor Rudy's comment. So in-house, the signs that say the town of Bakerville, you guys did that here. It wasn't prepared professionally.
No.
So obviously, we're not going to be advertising the town of Bakerville larger than anything else on directional signs.
No.
Okay.
It'll all be professionally spaced and designed with the header so that we're maximizing how much area we get for locations.
So a professional group that we've hired give us this plan or help us put this plan together says the directional sign should not carry any type of pictures or logos or
that goes against all wayfinding principles.
okay, so that's what they're saying.
Yeah, so you can have one or you can have the other. And if you have a single or two destinations, that you could put a logo. But the moment you start putting arrows and distances and logos and names, it exceeds what is wayfinding principles and becomes clutter.
Okay, so before we move any further, we should make a decision on this. Because I'm hearing already that there's a couple of council members that say that they'd like to see the symbols on these directional signs. But we're being told by this company that we hired to do this that we shouldn't do that on directional signs.
Destination signs, absolutely. And even what they call a secondary minor sign, which is for directional. Again, that's 1 or 2 max for a location. So again, like using the curling rink, you're not going to give them any distance because once they turn off 16A, they have nowhere to go other than the curling rink, the exhibition grounds, and the social center. So you can put those 3 names, 1 arrow, and you can put a symbol. So curling rink, you can put exhibition grounds, which has a standard symbol. And of course, there's nothing for social center that I know of. But those symbols can be put on there to help. At the end of the day, when you have bigger directional signs and you've got your maximum 6 locations, destinations, once you start putting arrows and you start putting distances, it becomes overly cluttered because it either has to go underneath or beside it. And having all the arrows along the left side, people know that it's this direction. They see the name and they know the basic kilometers that they have to travel. So as they go 3 kilometers, most people can accurately judge, okay, I should be getting close. And now they're looking for that, they'll be looking for that next sign that says, all right, I got to be here somewhere, right? So we're either going to make them turn this way, or you're going to go straight, or you have arrived.
Okay, so I guess the question would be, do we want to have a whole bunch of primary directional signs with 2 locations, with a symbol, with the arrows, with kilometers written on them? Or are we going to go, when you first pull into town, one main directional sign with kilometers and the arrows on it? Because this is not Phil that's coming. I mean, he agreeing with what they're saying, but logos at that point should not be introduced to those signs.
Can I ask a question then? Who is the information coming from the original wayfinding report presenter?
No.
Okay.
So I know where you're going with that, because
yeah.
that was done by a company that did our wayfinding report. They also do wayfinding signs, and I know exactly what community you're looking for. And I've been to them and I've looked at them, and they are extremely confusing. And a lot of people in that community do not like those signs because it is very, very full signs.
Okay, who referenced this to you? Like
Which
the wayfinding guru that says that we shouldn't have symbols in this together?
So these are from wayfinding reports that I've
Okay.
done research and asked companies about.
Okay.
And so these are the basic wayfinding principles that you have to go with one or the other. And I'm not saying symbols aren't bad, they're very useful, but you just have to understand that clutter, again, that's that negative, whether they're useful or not. If it creates that negative, you've now created a negative experience right through your entire wayfinding program. Because the moment people see those first signs, if they're overly full, it's gonna be confusing. And even as they go along, it's generated that you have that negative profile in your mind.
Councilor Worrell?
I just want to make sure that we aren't confusing, because the word sometimes will confuse people when we're saying destination signs. So from my understanding of this and what I went on after I read through the report, I looked at a bunch of towns, the directional sign, we're literally talking about that very first sign, just that first one, not having symbols, being clean, having names. When we say destination sign, sometimes it's easy for people to think it's only once you arrived, but that's not. A destination sign is what gets you after that first directional sign.
It's where you're turning, yeah.
Yeah, so you certainly, if we come into town and it says world's largest Pesica, then down the road, there could be a sign that has the Pesica symbol and a straight ahead. It doesn't have to automatically be when you hit the destination. So I just don't want us to confuse to think that there won't be symbols anywhere in town that people won't be seeing. So I know we're worried about, language barriers, and those are very important things to look at, or, some reading barriers. But we aren't talking about you're in town and there's nothing till you arrive. We're talking about the first sign being clean, being modern and fixed, and then after that, having that opportunity. So for me, I'm in favor of seeing words and certainly kilometers and an arrow for the first sign, and then seeing some symbol wherever we can, not only just at destination, but at some point on our way to our destination.
And I know on Thursday we had some discussions about the U of A, NAIT. Those signs they're standalone signs that say NAIT campus this way, University campus 8 kilometers on high. Then that's on the yellowhead. And anybody that knows, University campus is not on the yellowhead, but in 8 kilometers, the mind tells you as you're driving, University of Alberta, 8 kilometers. I'm going to be looking for something as I get closer that then you'll all of a sudden see, University 4 kilometers this way. Okay, I'm going to make that turn.
Okay.
But it's a symbol that they're going with.
So can I ask, I've got to ask a question again then. So if we're on page, I don't know what page to call it, but it's the pullout where it has the pool and the collection of maps on 857. So it's one of the pullout ones like this. Sorry, it's this one, Phil. It's probably halfway through the pullouts.
There's the yellow corner with half
Thank
in
you.
yellow.
What's that, sorry?
So it's about halfway through the folded.
It has a yellow corner in it, yellow painted corner with the half, the symbol for half.
Yeah,
So when I look at that page, for example, I'm going to use these as samples. So looking at the two in the middle, for example, if I were going to say, as a visitor coming to the community, and I was going to choose between the existing white sign that is directing towards the arena and the aquatic center as compared to the first one, as much as I don't like the little one, I would choose the first one as being clearer. So I understand what you're saying about clutter. I think
as opposed to the words, you mean?
the words, and again, I understand this isn't the finest or the final graphic presentation,
Mhm.
but as an approximation, even something as simple as we've been talking about putting signs outside of the community too, and electronic versus written word, and the ability for the brain to recognize, read, and process. There's a specific calculation about how long and how far away the words need to be from the road. I would say that even in these two samples, I would choose the old one over the new one based on what I see here. And I guess I'm just uncomfortable that if we're going to make this adjustment, and I understand it's going to be progression, like I said previously, that it will be incremental change. It's not going to happen all at once, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking that through. And I'm not convinced that the words alone are sufficient. And you and I obviously disagree about the example of, and actually I'm looking at a few different examples, a few different communities. And even, traveling internationally too, if you can't read the words, you can understand the symbols. And there are some things like parking. You can't reinvent parking. That's something that's easy for everybody. The parking in here is also on the next page.
Mhm.
So there are some things that we're going to rely on. And I guess for the sake of consistency, I just feel that you're going to have to use some of them. Parking downtown, for example. I would assume that you're going to have to use the P sign. That's in one of the
But
examples.
parking is a standard transportation sign.
Yes.
Aquatic center is not a standard sign because
Yeah, and
we
probably-
have what we think is the water slide, but other people think it could be a toboggan hill, right?
And
'Cause
honestly,
it's
sorry, and I don't think that, and I don't disagree. I think the aquatic center is actually a very unclear name. So even when we put the names on front of the new arena, it should say arena, pool, dance studio. It should be clear. Aquatic center or even the water slide is probably irrelevant for most people because they can Google that. But having a pool and the arena sign. So I guess I still like the simplicity of having a graphic of some format, and I think even the examples that have been given in here, parking is the key, and that is a universal. So
So I guess getting to about the arena and aquatic center, like I say, we did these in-house and to have those signs all professionally made was thousands of dollars. So we did this in-house over the last year with a summer student last year and my current assistant. So those words will be much bigger, and we will be able to put some signs, like some logos on there because there is space for it.
These are destination signs now.
Yes.
So logos are okay on destination.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we can't get too focused on a little bit of what was in the report.
Yeah.
The report
Yeah.
just had the name. We've already said that we would do logos once we get past that first sign.
Yeah, so, I mean, right off the bat, I'm not in favor of that big sign having all that information and logos. I don't like the aquatic center myself personally. I mean, because if you drove through town and you were looking for the pool, the chances of that catching your eye. I like the fact that all the signs as they first enter the town are all going to be identical now. So that when they see the color scheme in the sign, they know that this is something they should be looking at. But these are destination signs, Councilor Rudy. So there will be places for logos on these signs.
Yeah, and I guess that's where my concern is if that's what it says, that's not what I'm seeing. So I'm willing to suspend judgment. You asked my.
It's very difficult for us to put those symbols because we don't have access to those symbols and try to create them on a document, so.
So right now, on the first directional signs, I think we'll all agree. You go ahead, don't clutter them too much with the names, but the direction, the arrows, and the kilometers. But when you get ready to go to print on these destination signs, we'd like to take a look at it. How's that?
Well, and all the signs, once this is approved, I'll have our local contractor who then will design the signs and has access to all those logos. They'll put it on and then we'll get what the actual sign will physically look like. And then it's just a matter of printing it, so.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, Councilor Barrett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been enjoying the conversation.
The old signs have shown a lot of clutter, there's no doubt about that. But on these signs, when you have 4 or 5 arrows and quite a lot of words, and people are gonna have to stop to read. You cannot read on that page 28, that first sign, the primary directional sign, 8 foot by 8 foot. There's no way anybody can read all that information as they drive by. So they're gonna have to stop and read that. The aspect is that there is off over in the far corner an icon that also describes what that is, because it didn't know that the icon replaces all of those words that are in the middle. And as they go down and go along, all they have to do is watch that icon to get further direction. And I look at this and I say, yes, the current signs that we have, where you put a whole bunch of icons up there with some small writing, very big and clever. This is nice and neat, but it doesn't rule out having an icon over there just beyond the 2 kilometers. And there's an icon there for the 8 or whichever. I mean, the aspect is, there's no way that I could drive by and read everything that's on that sign.
I would
have to stop.
I would disagree because I've been at communities and looked at them and the arrow, your mind says I gotta go forward. You have a look at what you're looking for and
I
that.
can read that entire sign.
Clicks.
Gotcha.
Better than I am.
Now, again, remember, I've just tried to type this in. The letters are going to be a standard font that meet transportation guidelines, so that at distances, traveling at that speed, it's recognizable.
Like the very top one sort of takes a while to read. It's a lot of information as you're going through that. I mean, if people are coming here looking for the world's largest Pasanka, that's what we can tell them. World's largest Pasanka and tourist information. You don't have to say the world's largest at that point, but I mean, this is simplified it the best you can. But when you get these ready, we'll take a look at them for sure. So, I mean, I don't think we need to go through exactly what the font's going to look like, the size of the letter, and how long the arrows are going to be until we get to see them. But is it other questions regarding budget implications and where we're going to start? That's just things that we should be dealing with. So, do you have any questions regarding that? Councilor Lemke.
I understand on the last page there, it talks about the final number for the wayfinding, 69,000. Is that correct? $61,914.
Yes.
Does that cover everything that you've shown here, stages 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes, and that's just the cost of the signage. That's not including installation, because
Okay.
my hopes are that we'll be able to accomplish all the installation in-house with our own staff.
Okay.
A lot of these signs are going to be taking down the old board signs, and once they're then the new ones are just bolted up.
Okay.
So
My next question is that we had budgeted or approved $200,000 for 2 signs, one on each side of town. Is that correct? All right. So now, at the last meeting, budget, of the wayfinding presentation, you mentioned that you could have 2 signs on either side of the community for roughly 100,000 change. So therefore, we have 100,000. I'm suggesting that this 62,000 be put towards that, and we complete this wayfinding thing in the term that was set to have it done. So we got 200, and we could spend 162, and we could get our wayfinding done and complete. That's my suggestion.
So there's 30,000 in the budget for this year.
Yes.
There was 200 to be coming out of reserves for those other signs. So as we move forward here, the 6 SEM signs at $30,000. Or the plan was to do them all in the phase 1?
Well, that's not a part of wayfinding. That was kind of something that I started working with Bob
Okay.
with the highway signs. So all the SEMS is separate from wayfinding.
Okay, so we should not have that really in here then, really.
So you could, like Councilor Lemko said, you could do the 2 lower highway pylon signs for $100,000. You could do the SEMS and TODS program, and there would still be I mean, I'm not exact, but in the probably $30,000 range that could be put towards wayfinding, which then would basically almost complete the entire program based on the numbers that I have for manufacturing.
Okay, so, but that's not your decision.
No.
And we don't know exactly what the number's gonna be. So let's take that out of there because we don't know.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So the 30,000 that we have budgeted for this year, we're collecting taxes for in the budget. So we can more than do what you have for phase 1.
Yep.
Okay. I think we all agreed that we would be in favor of the 2 larger signs at that cost at each end of town coming out of reserves. So until we know what these other signs that you have in here for 30,000, where we're going with that, we can't make a decision on that. Because we need a lot of moving parts in that program to come together. So we'll just take that out of there to begin with. I mean, it could be something that could be coming out of the reserves, that could be part of this, but there's a lot during this summer. We're not going to get this all together. We're not going to find all the people we need and get everybody together on this and have the Department of Highways get these signs ready for us this year.
No.
Okay.
The highway signs could be done, like the pylon signs, but not the transportation signs.
Yes. That's what we're talking about. And this 30 grand, this
Yeah.
is what you have. So who has any other questions regarding how many phases we should do right now with the 30? You go ahead.
I was somewhat similar as Councillor Lemko, except for with the exclusion of those 2, because I don't think you know where we're at, how the community would buy into or which way we were going to go. So I don't think we're quite there on those signs. But I would potentially, if we are staying within the half of our cost essentially for the 2 outside highway signs, I would potentially be willing to move forward with the rest of these phases and allocate funds towards them that wasn't that reserved. So I totally agree that we're not quite ready there because we're not sure how the community or how we go, but I think we could look at doing the rest of our signage within it. So I would certainly be happy to proceed forward and maybe consideration for all of the other parts to go in, because if you take those 2 out, we aren't that far. We don't have that much more dollars to go really to cover it, and then we would have it clean and done.
Does everybody see where we're going here right now? We take that 30 out, we move that 100 forward. We're basically there, and then we'll get some consideration to move money if need be out of reserves when we get to that project comes together. Absolutely.
Well, and I think probably the whole intent of having the request for proposal would be to give us that idea of where we are, because the last project that was presented to us was from one vendor. And I think it's very clear that there are a lot of different vendors that would be looking for business. So I think if there's a way for us to be able to put that request for proposal out there and find out exactly what we're dealing with, then we would know. Because I do think that if we're going to move forward, timeliness is important. And the part that I see a large stumbling block, and we talked about that previously, I thought we had the conversations going with Alberta Transportation already. I thought that was one of the directions that we had given previously, that separate from the request for proposal for the outside of the town signs, the conversation with Alberta Transportation was taking place. And then the third part of that was the wayfinding. And then we added another component, which is very valuable, talking about the SEMs and the TODs. And sorry for the people watching, I can't remember what those stand for. But the highway signage that has the various businesses on there. And I think it would be premature for us to hold back the rest of the project based on that part, because that's us determining what businesses want to do. And I think that needs to wait separately. But I would say, sort of following on the heels of Councillor Lemko and conversation with my colleagues too, that if we can move forward and do it while the ground is thawed, it's sunny outside, and if this is going to be a busy summer like anticipated, that it would be great to be able to tell people where to go in a nice way.
So I have started working on a request for proposals with Mr. Craig, and we'll get these out to, there's about five big companies that make these the highway pylon signs that we call them. Once the request for proposal is in and accepted, these signs can be manufactured and installed in 8 weeks. So if that's council's preference, I can work on that request for proposal, get it to these companies. And again, it's about, like, we don't want to get, do we want to get away from the LED screens? Do we want that out? Because this all has to be put into the proposal.
Yeah, well, I think that we all agreed that those pylon signs is what we're referring to them now. No, we want them backlit with some sort of solar battery,
Okay.
sort of on the same concept of what Alberta Innovates has right now. We all sort of liked what you showed us there, and that was fine. So let's work on that. That's what the RCD should be addressed.
Okay, so I'll continue working. I'll keep everyone updated on that RFP progression.
Okay, so right now you're going to get some proofs of what this signage is going to look like with the colors involved and everything for us. And we know that we're probably going to do phase 1, 2, and 3 this year and the wayfinding, excluding the SEMs. And again, that was just too much work to even get done in this one season. So it will probably be next spring before that gets off the ground.
Yeah, and it will take that to get through the whole
And
transportation.
a new
process.
council can look at that in their budget to make some decisions on how they want to go on that. Everybody good with that? Excellent. I did have a question regarding what is the price of that digital sign at the vet?
31,000, I believe, was the purchase cost. Not exact, but I'm pretty sure it's around the 31,000 range.
So the proposal, if we get rid of those information signs, let's say at the east end of town, would eventually to move into some sort of digital type of information sign there? Or?
Yes, and they're coming down in price. They're, as you can get really elaborate and you can get just plain Jane screens, but the LED component is certainly dropping in cost. So I mean, I would like to see, especially for instance on the west sign, event sign by the high school, that would be a good one to change. We already have one at the park. Changing the other event sign that's on Highway 16 by the museum entrance.
But there's a plan for a sign there with these QR symbols on there, right?
No, that's all going to be at the park, because
Okay.
the idea is that we want to get people to our primary destination, which of course is the park. That's where we want people to stop for information, not stop on the highway for information. That was a stop back in
Yep.
the 70s and 80s because that's where you came in. If you're coming into Vegreville now, you're coming in for purpose. You're not just driving through. And I guess that's the driving change behind this, is that when those things were put up, you had nowhere else to go. You had to come through Vegreville. So that was your stopping point. Okay, where am I going to go? Here's some map. And you had the service clubs and the churches, but it was about the map, go have a look. And then you carried on and went through your business. That was long before the age of Google Maps and Apple Maps, which most people are using now. So when I want to direct them to our primary destination, which is the park, and there they can stop, they can get out, and they can safely find every bit of information that they need about the community. Vice versa, on the other side, on the west side of town, we have that pullout. That's where I want to put it for now, the big sign with the QR codes. Eventually down the road, I'd like to see a plan where we make a west end pullout, which could be by the Vegreville sign. We have a lot of space there. That's going to be a huge project. But again, it's an information pullout before you ever enter the community, before you hit any destination, you do any shopping. If you don't know where you're going, we're going to get you to this information pullout area, and all your information is there. So.
Very cool. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the next steps on this would be 2 steps. First is the adoption of the wayfinding master plan. And then the second would be a request for council decision on what we could do to implement for this year. So we'll have 2 requests on for the council meeting on Monday night.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll get some proofs on the design of the signs, and we'll get this rolling. Anybody else have any more questions on the wayfind? Thank you very much. So we got nothing from planning and infrastructure, nothing from corporate services. With Greg.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is for a council meeting on Monday night, just for information at this point. Deputy Mayor appointment will change effective June 28, 2021, and it will be Councillor Ann Waters will be Deputy Mayor up until October 25th, 2021, which is the organizational meeting after the election.
And all the stuff that comes along with being deputy mayor, all the perks and stuff that come along with it. The lembo every day. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so next is mine, and we're going to have a conversation today about the face mask bylaw that we have. And if you could just help me out here a little bit, when does it end now? When do we have the termination date?
June 30th at 11:59 p.m.
Okay. So what we're hearing from the province is that July 1, we're going to phase 3, step 3, where they will be removing their health order for masks. So I wanted to see if there was anybody here that wanted to extend it, or everybody's okay with just letting the bylaw go away. Would you like to say something, Councilor Willow?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be any surprise that I'm okay with the mask bylaw going away. However, I just wanted to bring up what I had brought up with you, Your Worship. I think it's very important, though, for us to send a strong message about kindness and respect for others. I'm going to be doing Talk of the Town this week and giving a little bit of an update for tourism. And the decision was made that, and I think maybe it will be an interesting message coming from me because I have been somebody who's pushed back on some regulations, as everyone knows, including the mask bylaw. And I'm going to be strongly advocating that as we open up for kindness and respect and remembering that we don't know what other people's situations are and why somebody may or may not be wearing a mask, and that some people may feel comfortable wearing a mask for a long time into the future, and maybe a little bit of a message about some mental health, that reminding people that while the lifting of restrictions may be the easing of mental health for some people, it may also be some additional stress for some mental health for others. So I think that was something I was going to just incorporate a little bit, and just a very much a be kind message, because nobody understands somebody else's situation. So I am obviously not asking to extend it, but I think that we should continue our messaging, even our town messaging, to remind people to take precautions, to continue the good habits we've developed, and to be kind and respectful to others. That's all.
Well said. Councillor Barry.
Yes, I think it was well said too, and I would echo that. My position is to just let the bylaw expire so that we remain consistent with the problem.
And wearing of the mask should be a personal decision, and we should all respect whatever that decision is. Wearing a mask,
I agree with you entirely. And if they're not wearing, thank you.
Okay, we'll see nobody wanting to, go ahead, Councillor Riddick.
Just wanted to add to that configuration. The vaccination rate across the province is one of the reasons that the province has given as their logic for allowing the provincial mask mandate to lapse. I would point out too that this area has one of the lower percentages of vaccination rates, unfortunately, and I know that His Worship has done his best to try to challenge other communities and trying to raise the profile, ensuring that people are doing all of the things that are part of preventing and promoting positive health changes moving forward, so that we can have an open summer. So as part of that conversation too, I do want to just point out that Central Zone, and we are part of it, and particularly the rural area, is one of the lower areas in the province for vaccination rates. So as part of that conversation, there will be lots of people that will continue to wear a mask depending on where they are in the discussion, like my colleagues just said, in terms of their own comfort level. So we just want to make sure that people don't become complacent because there are high numbers. St. Albert has almost 80% vaccination rate, and we're not there. So this was a point of information and just a cautionary part of that conversation too.
Okay, well, my feeling is that we'll let the bylaw expire, and the people that don't want to get a vaccination, the province is already bribing them with a lottery and stuff. So, I mean, we've protected the most vulnerable in our community with vaccinations, and the people that wanted vaccination have already got them. Matter of fact, there's vaccinations that they're probably throwing away right now that were bought and paid for, and people aren't taking them. So for us to keep a bylaw in place for people that aren't that were never that serious about the whole situation anyway, doesn't make any sense to me. So it will expire on June 30th, and the council will not pursue extending. So. Okay, thank you. Next, I have a letter to read. Dear Mr. McPhee, His Worship, we do not like that you are taking down the snow piles in every cul-de-sac. The kids know the risks to playing on the snow piles. Vegreville is a great place to grow up. The empty lots get very dangerous in the winter. Last year, one of the kids in the cul-de-sac got hurt because of the gaps of the snow. We started to jump over them. Then one day a girl fell and almost broke her ankle. That is why snow piles are safer. Every adult in the cul-de-sac has signed this paper. So Jocelyn Moyus as daughters, Sophia and Christina, and Peyton, and can someone help me with that last name? Bo Gabrick. Okay. So they're in favor of having snow piles in every cul-de-sac. So I plan on making this one of my platforms during the election, and we'll see where that goes. From the advice of the Moyes children. Anyway, appreciate them taking the time to write us a letter and letting us know how they feel regarding snow piles. And believe me, it's one of the cheapest apparatuses that kids can play on is a snow pile. So thank you for that. Next up, we have letters of support for the RCMP. And I'm not going to read them all. They're all exactly the same as the other ones we received, but I'll tell you who they're from. From Red Deer County, the city of Fort Saskatchewan, the town of Natin, village of Lougheed, town of Beaver Lodge, town of Thorsby, Cypress County, and the town of Viking. So all these municipalities are writing to the Solicitor General, Justice Department, telling them that they don't want any changes towards the provincial police force in replacing the RCMP and the contract that we have today. And I'll ask again. Does council want to write one of these letters right now? I mean, Councillor Warwa and myself are having a conversation with the Minister of Justice on Thursday, and we'll let him know exactly how we feel. And maybe he can give us a better understanding where he's going. And then we'll report back to council. Okay. Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have anything else, council? Do we didn't skip anything? Okay, we're gonna go around the room here and see what people are hearing. We'll start with Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I don't have anything really to report. I haven't had any complaints or anything coming to me. So I guess I'll just make it a positive side and say that we managed to get the corn maze sprayed. So that should reduce the weeds that are out there. The pumpkins and the sunflowers are actually starting to come up. So things are looking good out there. The weather is great. And I'd just like to say to Phil Rowe that I think your report actually was a very good report on the wayfinding, and I'm looking forward to seeing it implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brodziak.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only thing that I've had recently is how council will decide or proceed with the mask bylaw. I've also had some requests regarding the Pasanka Festival, how that will look this year, and then the Vegreville Fair, the agricultural fair. And I think there was an announcement made today that they're proceeding with the fair. I don't have much information on it, but that's basically, people are looking forward to having an open summer. So they're looking forward to a lot of activities this summer.
I do believe the fair is announced. It'll be 5 days long this year.
Okay.
And I do believe the Pony Chuck Wagon Association will be here for every day of it. I've seen Dwayne did put that up the other day.
Okay, so it's great. So that is about it. A lot of positive things going on in the community.
Councilor Warwick.
I actually heard almost the same things. Mask bylaw, I did get a couple of questions about that. And I think people are just looking for clarity on all of the summer events because they're wondering, you know, whether everyone will choose to go ahead. So that's the same exact things that I'm hearing. And I think it just reiterates again, you know, our need to remind people even with that. And I'm glad to hear that they're going to be able to have the checks, especially when sadly, we know that that isn't happening from the Stampede events. So I'm grateful to see that for them. But again, we will remember that there'll be a large number of people in the community and we'll just keep stressing the need for us to take cautious steps. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Riddick.
I don't have anything new that's different than my colleagues, but I would just express admiration for our young citizens writing a letter. This is an unusual year and maybe the first time, even the previous year, we haven't had any interaction with any of our local students. We usually have grade 6 social studies discussion about local government, and there's very few opportunities for us to interact with our young residents. So I would like to see more of that. I think that's a great opportunity for us to be able to hear from our young residents and have them know that their opinions matter and that we're listening to them too. So thank you for the parents that encourage their kids to be able to write that. And we're reaching the end of the school year. And again, it's been a tough year for students and teachers alike, and a hard-earned and well-deserved break. So that'll be a nice transition as we move forward to the summer, and it promises to be a great summer.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Not too much from me, but I'm happy to see what I think is the last bit of asphalt on the walking trails at the Pisinka Park being done. So that's good. So that'll be completed and pardon? You're welcome. But I do have one question with that. Walking out there the other day, a concern about some loose boards on the bridges. If that's going to be addressed while the asphalt is being done by them.
It is now.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so just a concern there. So it's good to see the added walking trails. People are excited to see that happening, and it's gonna be a great summer for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Lemko, can you give us an update of what you're doing tomorrow?
Ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm putting faces on ice cream cones. It's at the Horton School.
It's not top secret anymore.
No, we're helping out Len Bullock at the Little Red Ice Cream Wagon. His worship and myself, putting faces on ice cream cones, and I believe he's going to make a donation on behalf of himself and ourselves towards a charity of his choice or our choice. I have a few items I'd like to bring up. And again, wayfinding, the job fell. We're seeing and see some blue signs, which is great in the community. I had a couple things, and it's regarding signage. Can we get a blue arrow on top of Vic? Not a blue question mark, like the information sign that's global. It's hard for some residents or people driving on the highway. They're looking for that information, and our Vic doesn't have one on it. So when you pull into the Pisinka Park, it's kind of confusing. Like, what is that building? But if there's a question mark, then it creates some traffic. Anyway, just a suggestion.
Would you suggest the world's largest question mark?
Put it right on the A then. There was another regarding signage. We have the two new at the dump station. Like there's the two RV dump, yes. It's kind of confusing when you drive in there, and even for residents to drive in there as they drive through the park. But I can't imagine somebody who's pulling an RV to come into the dump. There's no, is it one way? Which way do you go to do it? And are there people who are using it, having trouble with people like myself who's driving around, not knowing where to go? So is there some signage going up there? Just one way, two ways, or just to?
That was the original intent, was to put up two signs that say one way, do not enter. And then we're looking, I'm working with Public Works to get an arrow painted on the asphalt that points people to curve off and take the new road that they built to come around one way so that people are,
Okay.
so we don't have people, and I know exactly what you mean, because there are people that are taking their vehicles to go to the back west end of the north side campground behind the RV dumps. And, you know, we've got vehicles lined up there trying to pass on this side rather than taking that one-way traffic. So I'll look at it.
That's good. I didn't see it in the wayfinding master plan, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
It was in the original plan, though.
There also, now that the paving trails are almost completed, I noticed that the one that goes past the gazebo on the east end that comes to the road to the hospital. At the other end, it starts there as well. Is there an opportunity for us to use 3 feet of that wide highway and crosshatch yellow where citizens can walk out there, know to walk along that side, that the trail will come, so they can come around a loop for people who don't know.
He's talking about alongside the pond.
Yeah.
It is a very wide highway there. We could just have 3 feet with yellow stripes
Yeah.
painted.
Director Lefebvre and I have already had a discussion about that, and we will get that in place.
Okay.
We'll take a 3-foot, and it's only 30 kilometers, so it's well within guidelines. So we'll have a pedestrian walkway marked
Thank you.
from trail to trail, so that people can move around that. You come visit the park and not have to continue with all of these routes.
Awesome. And the boards are screwed down as I cycled on it today. The boards are screwed down on the pitch. And my last thing is kudos out to VVA for the art walk and the work they're doing in this community. It's just, that to me is just saying a lot about our Main Street, about their hearts are in the right place for doing all that artistic work, and it's everywhere. And it puts a smile on your face as a community member. The art walk will be much more than I ever thought it would be. Anyway, kudos to them. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, I've got quite a few calls on the mask bylaw. I think the walking trail, especially around the man-made lake, are getting to the point where everybody knows that we've done everything within our power to try to accommodate everybody that we could. And the ones that aren't happy, well, there's just really not a lot we can do. But I've had a lot of people in town that are so excited to be able to finish a loop, walk around, even if they're driving to the ag to do it, from the south side. I know that we need to show a little love on the south side here pretty soon. And I tell everybody that comments on that in the Parks Master Plan, we do have a plan to move over there. So, and, oh, sorry, I'm just trying to tell you what I'm hearing out there. And I'm, like Councilor Riddick says, to have this letter from young people, and maybe there's something that is so easy to look at that we're removing snow all the time. Maybe there is some strategic places where we can leave some piles of snow. I mean,
he identified last year some specific places within the community that when they get a fresh.
I talked with Director Lefebvre, and last winter he identified some areas in the community that are very easy to pile fresh snow when we get it. So the problem is that when that snow's piled, it has to be fresh. The moment it gets tracked on and it's got to be used the grader, then you've got ice chunks, and that's where kids can get hurt. So definitely he's working on a plan for the winter time for, again, fresh snow, because they were extremely well used last year where we could get them. So
especially if there's an empty lot in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Before anybody drives on, they get there with a loader and pile it up in a lot. It doesn't have to go through the snow blower stuff, so it's good. And I just want to tell everybody to be ready that as soon as the July long weekend's over, we will be looking at our construction schedule in town, and we will be, and it's that time. So everybody be patient as they possibly can. So that's all I have. So let's move to director's highlights. Well, go ahead, Phil.
since I'm the only one here. Thank you, Your Worship. So just to inform council, myself along with the fire department will be going ahead shooting fireworks for Canada Day at Pessinka Park with the clearance from the province. Instead of a drive-in, we're going to utilize the park. So that is allowed. Unfortunately, we'll have to do it in-house, and we won't have the big explosive fireworks available. Every company is booked solid, and they have been for quite some time. So I do have a fireworks license, so we're going to be shooting off what I'm allowed to. So that'll be on Canada Day at 11 p.m. So I'll be working with marketing communications to get that out to the community. Just give council a couple of updates. The paddle boats, so they are in place and officially going to open as soon as the meeting is over, and we'll get council out there. The events center update, we're at about 80% completion. They're working on the drop ceiling installation right now. The lighting will go in right after the drop ceiling. Then the flooring will be installed, the bathroom fixtures, the kitchen fixtures, and then we'll be open for public bookings. So it's coming along really nice in there. So the northeast trail loop, the bridge boards were tightened on Monday, and Monday I think they were out there. Yes, they were out there Monday. Paving in the park is complete except for just where the actual boats, the paddle boat entrance is. We actually removed the sod that was in there, and I decided to put some asphalt in there. It'll keep the boats and the dock a lot cleaner rather than having sod. They'll be starting the trail along St. Martin's tomorrow. They should be done by the end of the week paving. The next week, garbage cans and signs will be installed as per your wishes for, we'll be outlining what the penalty is for dog defecation out there, and that pets are to be kept on a leash. And then we'll do the gate installation shortly after that. So I'm hoping within a week to 2 weeks, the whole project should be finished. The Southwest Nature Trail, letters went out to all the area residents, and to date, we have heard nothing but positive comments, not one single negative comment from anyone in the Southwest with what the plan is. The park staff are working on building a new trail portion that's on the north side of the wetland, so that will create that first loop. They are almost complete. And once that is finished being built up, then the staff will start laying down the recycled asphalt crush from the landfill. And once that's in place, then we'll put some concrete bollards. I've spoken with Trent Samuel at Twin Lakes, and his mold, the mold that we ordered, should be here hopefully shortly, within the next week or so. So what we've ordered is a 30-inch circular bollard, and what it'll do is everybody I assume has seen those concrete Lego blocks that people use around town. So this is the same concept. It's a mold. They close it up, they pour it with cement, shake it up, and then when it's hardened, they take it out, and then you've got a concrete bollard. Those will be replaced around the egg park this summer, and all the wooden posts will be removed at the park, and then those bollards will also be used at the man-made pond and on the Southwest walking trail. And I'm just considering working with the community on maybe a painting project for them. So
They have a loop in them for moving them, or how?
what's that?
They have a loop, a wire in them to pick them up, or?
No, they're 1,100 pounds. Our boys just pick them up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, they actually have a screw that they put in the top,
Yep.
and then it's a hook that they screw in, and then they can lift it up and plop it in place. So yeah, they're heavy. Playground update. I know I told you that the Kinsman Playground was going to be done in June. There was an opening with the soft line that are doing the rubber poured flooring. So they have availability in September. So I took it upon myself to switch that to September. So they'll probably start shortly after the long weekend, which is great because then our park will remain open for the summer season. We won't be interrupting it. And
You were talking June of next year?
No, this year. It was supposed to start here actually last week, but we got an opening in September from Softline. So I pushed it back to September rather than having our playground closed for 4 to 6 weeks during June and July. So I hope everyone's okay with that. And so we'll start in the beginning of September and should be finished by mid-October. So it will be done before before freeze up. And Foxview Park, at this point, we've had no public concerns submitted to us on the plan for that. And staff will start working on the Foxview Trail after the Southwest Loop is completed. And the last one, the Vegreville Historic Society, Town Manager Craig and myself, we're in the final review stage of the bylaw and procedures. So the process for this is once it's complete and we've got all the bugs ironed out of it, we'll have to ultimately promote that from council and the community. The Museum Society will hold an AGM and we'll go through the whole legal process of doing the switch from Museum Society to Historical Society. And I have met with the museum, couple of museum members. We've gone through this step by step as to how this will work, and they are all in favor of it and understand the process. So it's just once we got the documentation, all I's and T's dotted and crossed, then, and of course with COVID, they were not able to have an AGM. So I kind of just put this towards my back burner, but now that we'll be able to, what I'd like to do is offer them the social center to have their AGM, because a lot of their members probably would not be too prone to having a Zoom meeting. So having an in-person meeting in the summertime, that's what they would like. And then we will go through that process. And I'll be there to guide Howard and Jerry through the process of the AGM for them. So that's all I have, sir.
Okay, so when the trail around the man-made lake and gets done over there and the finished grade is done on the side on where we move clay and move dirt, I would hope that the parks is ready and motivated to get the seed down and get rolling and get that seeded as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Councilor Worrell?
Just to, if we could, I would like to schedule a tour when you're done the tour, the event center, so the council can kind of go through and know, what's in there, because we get a lot of questions about what's it going to look like, and that way we'll be able to do that. The other thing I just had a question about, I appreciate the stand that you guys are taking on to be able to still do fireworks. I understand some of the challenges and us not wanting to go ahead too early and putting in that spot. Now, my question was, I'm anticipating, and I could be very off, but being that it's the very first day, while some people will be apprehensive, I think there's a good chance we'll have a large group of people potentially showing up for the fireworks. What if we had to do, or what are the regulations stating? I'm just kind of wondering about things like the cleaning of the bathrooms and stuff. Have we had to have extra staff, or I just kind of was thinking about it. I just feel like it's a floodgate day. So I'm just wondering what our thoughts are.
So the Vic closes at 8 that day at the end of the Pessinka Park Market, and the bathrooms will be closed for that. Because we'd have to bring in staff at midnight to clean, and I just don't want to incur that. So the July 2nd staff, because it's Friday, staff will be there first thing in the morning, and they'll clean the bathrooms as normal, and then get ready for the festival, which starts on the 2nd.
Okay, so perfect. I mean, people have realized that they could still go to the park and not have the washing facilities. So I think there's outhouses there too, that if people absolutely need. Okay. So it'll be show up for the fireworks at 11 o'clock, and half an hour later, then we have minimal amount of fire staff for the on-call weekend that will assist in setting off the fireworks and assist with the part, like traffic control after, which is always the challenge. So,
okay. Any other questions for Director Rowe? Hey, Cliff Craig, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. A few items here. The Trans-Canada building, an information package for the Trans-Canada building has been prepared and is available for potential purchasers. There was a showing of the property on June 16, 2021. I anticipate to hear from the clients before the end of the month. The Regional Emergency Management Bylaw, I'm reviewing the revised draft Regional Emergency Management Bylaw. I put in a number of requested revisions. It will be coming hopefully this summer back or to council. I'm also in the process of drafting an advisory board policy for review by council at a future legislative committee meeting. The next item is a bigger topic, and there wasn't a lot of warning on this. It's population estimates methodology. So the provincial government is changing the process for the determination of population estimates methodology. In the past, the federal census data was the basis for the population determination. Municipalities could conduct their own population census, which was then utilized for determining the population for grant funding purposes. The populations will now be determined annually by the province. So municipalities can still perform or conduct censuses, but any population census will not be accepted by the province. But census can also include questions of the community. So there are things that can, if a municipality wishes to proceed with the census. So this is something new. And I was at an information session on this through electronic meetings, and as were a number of other CAOs. So as more information comes out on this, I will keep council informed. There's a number of factors to take into account on this. One is municipalities that have decreasing populations, ones that have increasing, fairly rapid increasing populations, and then also shadow populations. So there's a number of items that they have to consider in their formulation. So, but just so you know that the province is taking over the responsibility for determination of population, because that was something that municipalities had to declare each year. So, okay, and I will be on vacation from July 1st through the 11th, returning to work on July the 12th. That's my report. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Cliff? Get off pretty easy, Cliff. Okay, well, we have no closed session items today. So anybody else has anything else they want to bring up? If not, I'll adjourn the meeting at 3:20.